welcome everyone, and thank you for that rapturous applause. It's really quite something to walk up through, people cheering. So thank you very much for that. So how are you all feeling after Des speaking to you? Good? Motivated for the day?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah? So to follow on from what Des has already started speaking about, I'm here and I'm going to be speaking about amazing relationships. Masculine and feminine energy, and how you can use masculine and feminine energy in your lives to improve the relationships you have or you'd like to have. So who would like more amazing relationships? Not just me. Just one. Relationships, but it's not just intimate relationships. This is about relationships in your day-to-day life, maybe in the supermarket or everywhere else. And as Des says, you know, it's not just a one-off meeting with one person. This is about going out and meeting lots of different people and how you react to them and how they react to you. And I noticed when Des said about the lady with the suitcase, it doesn't matter how much I struggle with my suitcase on the tube. I don't find a knight in shining armour. Maybe I should struggle more. But yesterday I was in the garage and this lovely gentleman opened the door for me and I said, "Thank you very much." And he said, "It's a pleasure." And I thought, oh, isn't that lovely? How often does that happen now? There's that's an exchange between male, female in that kind of way. And I can see this young lady here nodding her head. You know, we've learned to be different, haven't we now? So hopefully we can get back to a few basics and find out why it is we get into relationships, what attracts us, and what we can do differently if we're not getting the results we want. Does that sound good? Yep. So just going on from, Des asked you what made you come here today, what brought you here? Who is it would like a better intimate relationship in their lives? Yeah, more intimacy, more passion. And maybe some of us have got relationships that aren't quite working for us, or that could be enhanced, because I've worked with lots and lots of couples that have come in and they seem to be in conflict and at war when they come in. But actually, with more communication and more understanding, they go out in a lot happier place. And sometimes it's about understanding how that other person in your life responds to you and you respond to them. So let's have a look then at the basics around human energy systems. And this is where it all starts, on how we are fundamentally different. And I had a good friend of mine, apart from the obvious, good friend of mine years ago said to me, "Jill, you know, men and women are made to complement each other." And I thought, how true is that? And as we'll see later when we come on to the stages of intimacy, how that might have changed over the few years and things are different. So basically we've got feminine and masculine energy. And the last time I was speaking, I got two people to stand up and write in the different charts where the energies fitted. So on the feminine side, how many girls feel as though they spend a lot of time in a feminine energy, in a feminine place, and that they can be females with a feminine energy? Quite a few. And how many of you as girls feel that you need to spend some time in masculine energy, maybe the job you've got? The girls that are boys and the boys that are girls at the back, and those that don't know who they are. And a lot of women spend a lot of time in masculine energy because they have to stand their place in a workplace or even in their relationship sometimes. So on the feminine side and the feminine energy is all about intuition and feeling and nurturing and all of those feminine traits. And what we've got here is intuition, nurturing, healing, calm. Does this sound like you girls? Is this what you are all the time? Calm, nurturing, have emotional awareness. And I think we'll all agree that girls have a lot of emotional awareness. And sometimes maybe guys don't seem to have that same awareness. And the expression and communication of emotions. And sometimes that's where the plan of life all falls apart. Because the girls and the boys expect it to be the same, and actually it's completely different. But we'll go on to look at that. So the masculine energy is the very directional, driven, focused energy, problem solvers. I love speaking to my male friends because I know that if I've got a problem, they'll give me the answer from what they think it is. I love it. I appreciate that. I've learned to use that if I've got a problem, I say, hey, what do you think about this? And they go, you know what you should do? And I think, you know, you're absolutely right. So it's based on logic, reason, energy of action, firm, ease of acquiring material needs, which is the financial drive and the business drive, survival, and common sense. Common sense? Is that how it works? Yes, I'm getting nods, so that's how it works. So who would agree with this, that actually, as a guy, they spend a lot of time in masculine energy, or as a girl, they spend a lot of time in feminine energy? Or do you think it might be different? So just take a couple of minutes to speak to the person next to you, your observations or feelings around, feelings for the girls, the logic for the boys, about what you think about the masculine and feminine energy and how it fits into your life as it is at the moment.
I could be seriously offended by that statement. It's really good at working.
Okay. So would anybody like to share anything that they've learned, or got an insight on, or discovered something different? Or did you all know it all to start with? Yeah, everybody knows. So that's the masculine and feminine energy, an overview. And this is about an awareness. And when I speak, I just ask people that listen to me just to listen to things with an open mind. Because once you open your mind to things that could be different, you'd be amazed at how things can change to be different. So I had to go looking for masculine, feminine examples. What do you think? Do you think he's masculine enough? Or do you think she's feminine enough? Does that epitomise the two? And would that be similar for you if you think about, if you were looking for somebody really masculine, that he would be it? And if you were looking for somebody very feminine, she would be that too. Now just take a moment to think about the person that you're attracted to. And just think, are they bigger than you? Size, height, stature? What do they look like? What would you imagine they feel like? Are they, very masculine, very feminine? And just judge where you stand in that as who you're attracted to. If the person you're attracted to is a bigger person than you, more directive, you'd be attracted to a very masculine type of person. If, on the other hand, the person you imagine is quite small and petite, well, not necessarily small and petite, but smaller than you, then that would mean that they would be more feminine. And it's about getting the balance between these two and then going through the stages of the relationships that actually makes you or gives you a better place to be in the right place with your energies around your relationships. So the idea in life is to seek a complement. It's not to seek an ideal match. Because what happens when you seek somebody out that's an ideal match, that matches you completely? Does it work? Not generally. So between these two, if this guy is looking for a girl, she would probably be a compliment for him. Because the more masculine you are, the more feminine you need to compensate for the masculinity. And the more feminine you are, would you agree, girls? You need a more masculine guy to look after you. But the relationship these days aren't necessarily based on an equal complement of the masculine and feminine energy. So what happens? And I'm going to look at the stages of intimacy in a moment, and we'll find out what it is and where you are in your relationships and how you can do things perhaps differently. So when you think about these two batteries, what would they have to do to attract each other, and what would they have to do to repel each other? To attract, what would they do? Positive to negative. So it would be different. If you put the two positives together, what would happen? And you put the two negatives together? How many of you know people that live in relationships that have got the two positives or the two negatives? Anybody know a relationship like that? Or was it just me and my parents? Or the relationships that I might have had in my life? Because when I'm speaking about it, I can think of quite a few examples of knowing people, and certainly the couples that I've worked with, sometimes I wonder how on earth they even got together in the first place, never mind stayed together for more than 5 minutes. But sometimes relationships are based on that repulsion, really. Anybody know anybody in a repulsive relationship? Yeah? Anybody watch Jeremy Kyle? See a few of them on there, don't you? So what we need then for our relationships to work is a complement between positive and negative. Negative, positive. And when you're looking for somebody to be with, or you're attracted to somebody, take this into account as to actually what are you looking for, what do they give you, and where is the balance? Because it's not always about a balance 50-50, as we'll go on to see in just a moment. So the relationships that you've been in your life so far, just take a moment now to think, how was I attracted to that person? And you might like to write that down. Take one relationship, it can be an intimate relationship, it can be a work relationship, good or bad. What attracted me or repelled me from that relationship? And what was it? Can we just take a moment to find out who's been attracted by something in particular? Who'd like to share? Oh, we've all gone deep into thought. And as you sit there deep in thought, what's going through your mind? Is it? I'll be within a second. Is it? Oh, that was so right for me. Or could it be? Oh, that was so wrong. And now I see. He wasn't masculine enough. I wasn't feminine enough. Or, ooh, how did that work? So, sorry, lady here would like to say something.
My ex-husband, we worked together in IT. We worked in the same company, same office. It was a very intensive relationship. And what attracted me to him was that he made me laugh from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. It was great fun, but something happened in the middle and he stopped making me laugh. The relationship finished.
So there was nothing else apart from, if he wasn't making you laugh, then the relationship didn't have anything to sustain itself apart from that.
And the work, we shared the work and we had that in common, but that was it. We didn't have other things in common.
Okay, I'll just say 50-50 to you and it'll become apparent in a moment. So thank you for that. Anybody else have a recognition about how they got into a relationship? And isn't it difficult how when you get into a relationship, it's hard to get out of it as well? You get in there.
Hi, my name's Laurel.
Hello.
Hi, I was living in Dubai 7 years ago, and I met this guy at work who was a different culture and religion, and we were instantaneously attracted physically and emotionally. His mother was going through the same thing as my mom, cancer. They were both very ill, and we did similar work, and we laughed together, and we thought we'd be together forever until he went back to his parents and asked if we could be together, and they denied us being together, obviously through culture and religion. So we're still friends, but we were forced apart, and that was really difficult. So I don't know if anybody else has been in that situation.
And so you were forced apart. It wasn't because your relationship didn't work.
No.
It was somebody else's rules.
Yes, and the parents wouldn't give him their blessing. And I know in certain cultures you have to have blessing from parents before you can, be together. So that's, for me, been really hard. And I still love the guy.
Oh. Do you still in contact with him? Yeah. You never know what may happen with the right energy. You never know in the future what could happen there.
It's been 4 years.
Some things are meant to be, and it's amazing how many stories there are that people that it wasn't right at that time, but actually it comes round again at a later time. And I'm not saying it will or it won't, but
So I live here now, and he lives in Dubai still, and he messages me daily and phones me every second day, and still tells me he loves me, still hasn't met anybody else. And I was thinking of going back to Dubai next year to live, but he keeps saying to me, we can't be together like that. But yet the bond is so strong in every aspect of the word. So it's sort of so unfair in so many ways.
there may be a way around that. Who thinks there may be a way around that? Yeah, with some positive energy and some vibes. So we'll put it out to the universe for you that could happen. So, anybody? Thank you for that. Thank you. Anybody else? No, fab. Let's move on then. So I want to share with you, thank you, the relevance this lady here, the stages of intimacy, of relationships, such as the relationships you might see on Jeremy Kyle, the relationships you might see on films, and just take a moment as I'm speaking to think about the different relationships that you're aware of and where they fit into this. So the first stage of intimacy, and the first relationship we're more than likely to get into, and you might recognise this, is one of dependence, where there's a shared need, where one needs the other and can't live without each other. And this is very typical of the relationships that were in the 1950s, where the man was very much the man and the breadwinner, and the woman was very much the homemaker and the mother and the nurturer. And that's the way the relationship worked then. And while it worked like that, that was fine. But there wasn't any independence. And without each other, one of them would, if the one wasn't there, then the other one would have died, because the relationship was very much based on the other person's needs rather than their own. So a dependent relationship, and you see this in codependent relationships as well, that's exactly the same, as the person with the other person needs them. Anybody had experience of codependent relationships? They're really, really common, yeah, where you can't survive on your own without this relationship. And why is it, I wonder, that so many people get hooked into these relationships? They get hooked in with people that they need to control, that they're there for a need. Is it because they don't have self-esteem, they don't have their own needs met, and therefore they have to live their life with somebody else's needs as a priority? And coming back to the young lady there, how many people in this room live their lives by other people's rules? What are the rules you live by in your life? Because the majority of work I do with people is around rules. And clients will come in and they'll say to me something about something they believe or the rule they live by, but actually when we look at that rule, it's not appropriate for their life at all. And another one might be just as appropriate, if not better. So you can ask yourself, whose rules do you live your life by? Do you live it by your mother's rules? Do you live it by your partner's family's rules? By somebody's culture? What is it? Who rules you? Who rules your life? Is it your partner? I worked with a young lady yesterday. It's the first time I'd seen her. She came in, and her husband had phoned me up, and he'd asked me to see her because she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and she wasn't coping. She'd been bulimic and anorexic in the past, so he thought. And he said, I don't understand this. I don't understand what's going on for her. And before I saw her, I could be totally convinced that she was totally neurotic, on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and all would be lost. That wasn't the case. She did come in a real state of stress. But after speaking to her for about 20 minutes, it turned out that actually everything had gone wrong from the minute she got married. She'd met her husband-to-be. It was like a fairy tale. Everything was going right until she was there in what she said was a £6,000 wedding dress. So already the money had come into the relationship. And on her wedding day, he had accused her of sleeping with her friend's boyfriend. This is on the wedding day. Now, before she got married, she was totally in love. Her heart was completely open. She said that all her barriers, all her brick walls had come down. She'd fallen in love with this guy. And that's all it took for that brick wall to go right back up. That betrayal of trust. And so from there, she said she'd switched off. She switched off emotionally. She went more and more into herself until after 18 months, that's when she's come to see me. After 18 months, she feels as though she's going to lose it. But actually, what do you think's happening there? Do you think it's his insecurity? Do you think it's his stuff, or do you think it's her, who was totally happy before she got married? And then how many times do you know somebody that meets up with somebody and then they change their personality? They become depressed, things just go from bad to worse. And then in the end, they almost become suicidal because they're not expressing their true needs and they're not getting their needs met. So I did have to ask her, was he controlling her? And she looked at me and she didn't say yes, but it did make her think how much she was being destroyed by what he'd done to her, by not letting that episode at the wedding go. So that's just one example of a dependent relationship. He needs her and she needs him for whatever she's getting from that relationship. We then move on, as some of us might have done, and me personally, from a dependence relationship, and as in codependence. Yes, I could write a book on that. And if any of you out there are aware of codependence in any relationships, there's a very, very good book called Codependent No More. And for anybody that might feel that they're in a relationship that as I've just described with this young lady, reading that, I'm not quite sure who's written it, but I will check it out for you. If you come and see me, I'll let you know. So Codependent No More. So when you get out of a codependent relationship, if you ever get strong enough to get out of it, or a dependent relationship, the next stage is independence. And this is the young lady at the front sharing about her and her husband. When you meet somebody, the relationship's absolutely fine, but it's based on a 50-50 independence. Or you'll find women or men will say, that's it, I'm absolutely fine on my own, thank you very much. And it's about, this is me, I'm completely independent. My heart might not be open to being as expressive as it could be, but that's absolutely fine because I'm independent, I'm in my own space, and I can be with somebody. Because when I'm with somebody, we can both be independent. Now, if you've got an independent relationship between two people, where's the masculine and feminine aspect of that? Are both people trying to be masculine? Are both people trying to be feminine? Is it a balanced mix? And how does it work? And this happens to lots and lots of couples They get together, they're attracted, they have a good time for a certain amount of time, and then the passion disappears out of their relationship and they find that there's nothing left because they're independent on their own and they're not sharing anything anymore with their partner. And that's when a lot of relationships die, become dead. And then so many people, do you know couples that have stayed together just because they're together? Or is it just my friends? Because they think, what? There's a fear of leaving, a fear of being on their own. Does anybody in this room have a fear of being on their own? All completely independent. Got here yourself, didn't need anybody to bring you, made your own way around, and here you are. And are you in an independent relationship, which is 50-50, or are you independent in a relationship on your own, in your own space? And is your heart closed to being in a fully intimate relationship? No, we don't want any answers to that, thank you. That'd be just something for you to think about. So that's the independence. Now, you might recognise the dependence and the independence, but now, how do relationships really work? And the relationships that really work are based on intimate connection. And I believe, says she with her hands on her heart, I believe that that comes from inside ourselves. I believe that when you're happy with yourself, then you're in the right place to meet a person that you're truly attracted to for the right reasons. Would anybody agree with that? Yes. Yeah? You're not in that space that says, I'm independent, I'm over here. Okay, if we get together, we share the ironing, we share the washing up, you know, that's it. I personally believe that ironing is a girl's job and cleaning shoes is a guy's job. Right or wrong, but I believe that relationships work like that when there's a complement of the tasks. So it's about being happy with yourself first, and then when you're happy with yourself, do you think that you could attract somebody into your life that's a better fit for you? Yeah? And are you going to choose somebody that's needy, that needs you for their needs, or are you going to choose somebody that's perfectly okay with themselves too? And if you have a relationship with two people that are completely okay with themselves, does that work any better? Okay, any questions so far? Everybody clear on that? Everybody going to go off now and have an intimate connection in their relationships? Find intimate connections? Go and stand in Victoria Station until the right one comes along? Says, right, okay, I've just heard Jill speaking and now I have to stand and watch what's going on here because I'm more aware of what I'm doing. You might be a bit too masculine for me, or you might be a bit too feminine. Is anything going to change in the way you relate to people now, or relate to yourselves? No? Or yes? Yes. What would change?
Question.
Okay.
My question is, how do you, because I operate from a feminine and a masculine energy, my thing is about being vulnerable as a woman. I find that a bit of a weakness because I've experienced pain, I've seen my mum get hurt and things like that, so I know that my barrier would be having to let that down, that guard down, because I am independent, but I know that I need to be more vulnerable, so I don't know how to do that.
And it's very difficult, thank you, it's very difficult when we put up the brick walls or whatever the barriers, when you've been hurt yourself, when you've seen other people hurt, it's like, how can I risk getting into this relationship again? And that can stop you being vulnerable. But actually, ladies being vulnerable, guys, is that actually quite a nice trait? Is it something you'd be attracted to? A girl saying, actually, I really need a bit of a masculine man in my life, because I'm sitting here very pretty and, sorry, but with my hairband on, looking very feminine. And isn't it a shame that so many times in our lives we get hurt and put those barriers up, rather than that good-hearted, see, we've got... Except you've just shared that now with a smiley face, and you've said to all the guys in this room, I'm feeling very vulnerable. At times, I can be masculine. And all of these guys, haven't you, have gone, yeah, we like that. We like women as girls, you know, saying to somebody, "Well, I don't want you to carry my suitcase," really puts them off trying to help us again. And there's so many women out there who are destroying it for the likes of me, who apparently, I work from feminine energy, except nobody will help me with my suitcase. But when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, the guys do step in, and provided you're careful about how you give your heart, and as long as you know who you're choosing and why, then vulnerability is a good thing, although it's scary and sometimes. So is that a good example of what it's like to be vulnerable? I'm feeling very vulnerable. And then the guy's like, "No, I'll help you. Let me carry your suitcase." So, anybody else? Thank you very much for that. Because sharing, when you actually take the time to share, not only do you get a learning for yourself, but other people learn from that too, don't they? And it's very brave, I think, to share. So, anybody else? I can see a few people in here. They've obviously got up early this morning, like myself, to get here. And it's a bit warm, and eyes are starting to get a bit heavy. So just turn to the person next to you and say, "Can I speak to the person next to you?" And say something I've learned already this morning, just to get some movement between where you are, just to stretch yourself a little bit further than your comfort zone.
You're quite intimidating. As well.
You can stand up and stretch in the process if you like. Show masculinity, show femininity.
You know why? The as well from some of the appearance rules as well. See where my father has always drummed it into us: be independent, make a man be able to do it to you, not independent. We've grown that way and we've heard that all the time.
Okay then, have you had any insights? Anybody found any attraction with anybody that they might not have noticed before? There's a masculine feminine conversation going on here, look. He's being masculine, she's nodding, yes. Yeah. Absorbed in the conversation. Okay then. So what does anybody learn that they're going to do different when they leave here today? I'd just like a couple of people to share that with me. What are they going to do, something different, when they leave here today? Nobody? You're all going to go out in the same place, same people. I'll sit at Victoria Station and watch what you're doing when you go home.
Practice being more vulnerable.
Okay, practice being vulnerable. How are you going to practice?
Being more open. Be more open and sharing.
And how do you, and sharing, so that you're going to share more than you were before. Brilliant, thank you. That's good. Anybody else going to practice anything different? This young lady here went and sat by a guy, didn't you? And chatted to him.
Yeah, hi. I sort of respect what that lady in the front said, because I feel that I'm an independent woman as well. But I think sometimes what happens is we become so independent, we become quite masculine, because sometimes men aren't as chivalrous. And I sometimes think there's relationships are quite complex anyway. And I kind of think that sometimes we're becoming so independent that men think we don't need them. But we're doing that because we do need them, but we're kind of not communicating that quite rightly to them. And all the other you're saying where we should be more open, I think men should be more open about their vulnerability as well, because we're not the only ones vulnerable. I think men are as well, and somehow they do it in a way that we sometimes don't understand. I think they need to be as open to us as well, and I don't know if the men here can talk to that bit, because that's the bit that I sort of would like to know more about as well.
Okay, let's just ask the men in the room then. If the ladies show their vulnerability, do you react in a different way? Men? Yes. Yeah? And are men more willing to share their emotions than they ever used to be? Because my daughter runs a dancing school, and this is a lovely story. I love this one. And I was standing outside waiting for her show to go on. I was looking after my little granddaughter, and the guys that came out there, I was chatting to them saying, "How did you enjoy the show?" And they said, "Oh, it's lovely. Oh, my little daughter's dancing out there." They said, "It makes me want to cry or shed tears." And I thought, absolutely brilliant that the guys could connect with that emotion through seeing their daughters dance. That's my little girl, and I'm really proud, and that makes my heart sing because I'm happy. And I don't know about the guys, I think sometimes there's this thing about showing emotions that they don't know how, and I certainly know from the clients that I work with that actually the guys do come in and find it. There's all different things, there's all different beliefs with guys about emotions, you know, like the lady said here about vulnerability being a weakness. I think guys can think that sometimes too. But what I do know is that when somebody opens up in their honesty and expresses an emotion to the right person, this is to the right person that you trust, that actually you give them license to be themselves too. Yeah, would you agree? So maybe test it out with something that's not too important, but like the lady said, now I'm going to be more vulnerable, and see what happens. Because I know that when I shared a story about wanting to be a princess at the ball one day, and how my dream had come true because somebody asked me to go to this dinner dance, I could get in my sparkly dress, and I was like so excited because I could go shopping. And he said, "Oh," he said, "you look all," he said, "I want to hug you when you say that." And I thought, that's what femininity and sharing is, the stuff that makes us really happy. And then it's the knock-on effect from there, isn't it? So I hope everybody's got something from this. And what I would share with you before we've herded off the stage is life is short.
Yep.
Yep. Live yours with passion. Be passionate about what you do, and be passionate about who you do it with. And if you're not passionate about what you're doing with whoever you're doing it with, ask yourself why. Thank you.